Hey, horror fans, once again, it is me, the Horror Mizamani G. As we continue on with the 31 Days of Horror, it is time for my next series, my next review. In the Underworld series, this time we're going to look at the prequel, Underworld Rise of the Lycans. Now, Underworld Rise of the Lycans is a 2009 American action gothic horror film. It was directed by Patrick Tatopoulos. It was written by Danny McBride, Dirk Blackman, and Howard McCain. Now, the film stars Michael Sheen, Bill Nighy, Rona Mitra, Steve McIntosh, and Kevin Renault. Now, this is the origin story that's centered on the centuries-old feud between the race of the aristocratic vampires and their one-time slaves, the Lycans. While I was researching this film, I found out that according to film director Les Weissman, he, along with Screen James and Lecture Entertainment, originally planned for a trilogy for Underworld. Their whole thing was that we got something decent here. We're going to go on ahead and create a trilogy here. That was the initial plan of the Underworld film series. They eventually decided that the third film would be a prequel, an origin story that would show the audience just how the war between the vampires and Lycans started. Basically, we already knew what was happening based upon the first two films, as there was this war between the vampires and the Lycans and how that got started. But this film would be the actual basis to actually show the whole story right in front of the audience. And I thought it was a decent idea to do that. This would also provide a greater backstory on Lucian. It would show how he was born, his relationship with Sonia, and how he would eventually become the leader of the Lycans. Hence, Rise of the Lycans. Now, since this was a prequel, some people wonder if Kate Beckinsale would reprise her role as Selene, but since this story is more focused on Lucian's life than Selene's, she would only make a small appearance at the end of the film. Probably actually, I think it's more archive footage from the beginning of Underworld. Not that she actually was actually in the film herself, but she does make an appearance. But it's just something that they filmed from before right there. But while would have been nice to see her in this film, this story takes place before the events, before she becomes part of this storyline. Now, as we see in the beginning of the film, elder vampire Victor is leading the vampire council while Marcus and Amelia are busy hibernating. That's basically how they began to, as he called, leapfrog through time, where they have one awake and two asleep. They would rule for a certain time period before they would have this big ceremony while they would go on ahead and awake the other person for their time to rule, and the other two would go back to sleep again. Now, according to what I've read, 20 years have passed since the war started between vampires and the first clan of Lycans. Basically, what we saw in the beginning of Underworld Evolution, where we saw Victor, Marcus, and Amelia trying to capture William. They were doing that first time where most of the people who were affected by William couldn't take human form again, and they were still trying to capture some of those other werewolves that escaped. Now, when a captured Lycan gives birth to a Lycan that can take human form again, Victor's eyes bulge up as he sees an opportunity to create a race of Lycan slaves so that they can protect the vampires during the daylight hours. Now, the Lycan, which eventually is named Lucian, grows up in a castle. He works as a laborer for the vampires and protecting the humans against the savage werewolves that were created from William's rampage. So he's born in servitude. He grows up. They have this special collar wrapped around him so he can't turn into a Lycan without killing himself, or his hip would be expected. So I like how they capture him. And they eventually do this to all the other people who they've actually turned into Lycans. However, unknown to Victor, Lucian and Sonia, Victor's daughter, have become lovers. But they have to keep everything in secret because they know it will bring about Victor's wrath. Because even back during that time, Victor had no respect for Lycans, and he did not want any type of commingling of the species. As with all the films in this series, despite this being a different director, we still get the same type of gothic-like atmosphere, especially that this is a period piece. It really looks wonderful, slick. Love it. Another nice-looking film. I mean, I love the look of the castle they use here, as it looks dark and intimidating in the shadows. It looks like it's huge structure, and I guess that's why Victor took it as a place for them to reside in. It's very intimidating. It's very deep in stature. It's very dark. and I guess it's supposed to give the remaining savage werewolves fear, not to attack the castle. But on the inside, it's bright and elegant in the halls where Victor and the rest of the vampire council sit. And it's nothing surprising. You would think this is something you would expect for a person of Victor's character to live in, because at the time vampires were they were sophisticated, they were elegant, they were proper, sort of aristocrats back in as we saw in the movies, as in the first Underworld and this Underworld right here. And even at this time period, we could see that they just look so elegant and bright and proper. You know, while we know this story from the first two films, it is still interesting to see how it plays out in this film. That's why, despite the fact we know what's going to happen, we still enjoy what we're seeing on the film because we do enjoy these characters. And I think that goes into great accomplishment for Kevin, Danny, and Les when they first created this series. We all enjoy these characters. We like them, and despite the fact we know the events that's going to play out in this film, we still enjoy watching it on the screen. We're still sad when Victor discovers Lucy and Sonia's relationship, when he beats Lucian for escaping, and when he condemns Sonia to death. It's still sad to see Lucian all tied up and can't do nothing as Sonia is tied up and led to die out in the sunlight. That's just shows you how the depths that Victor will go, even despite the fact that he loved his daughter, as he told Celine in Underworld. He did not feel as though that the commingling of the species is something he just couldn't get past. So he condemned his daughter to death. This mainly goes to the actors. Michael Sheen, he's great as Lucian. He's a man who wants to break the bonds of servitude because he figures as though, hey, we're from the same bloodline, we're from the same species as Alexander Corvinus, and we shouldn't be subjugated to slaves and to be with the love of his life. Now, while she isn't Celine and she isn't Kate Beckinsale, Ronya Martra, she's actually as Sonia, a woman who would like nothing better for her father to accept the fact that vampires and Lycans are the children of Alexander Corvinus, and the fact that, hey, look, I'm pregnant. This is your grandson. This is going to be the first time we're going to actually have a hybrid mixing of the species, but unfortunately, Victor wants nothing to do with that, no way whatsoever. And I think I know the reason why. I'll explain that in a minute. Veteran actor Bill Nighy, he is simply wonderful once again as Victor. He is a greedy vampire elder who's only looking out what's best for him, and again has no respect for Lycans. And I think one of the reasons why he did not want the commingling of the species because he felt in some type of way that there was any type of way that we have a commingling of the species where you have the mixture of both vampire and werewolf, that would be a very powerful being, even more powerful than Victor, and he knew that there's no way in the world he could not defeat it. So that's why he did not want any threat to his reign. As usual, the soundtrack is awesome. We have some nice playing music during the background, especially during the fight scenes. Love the music, and I believe in mostly all the films. Excellent soundtrack. Speaking of the fights, we have some decent ones in this film, whether it's Sonya fighting against the savage werewolves, Lucian fighting against the death dealers, Lucian fighting against victors. It all looks slick. It's beautifully, it's edited wonderfully. It's slick, and it's helped by the Gotham-like atmosphere. And again, give credit to the filmmakers and the cinematographer here. They did a fantastic job on how this film looks. This was a decent addition to the series as we get to see all the events that we learned from the first two films, first two movies played out right in front of us. Like I said, we knew the events was going to happen. We knew that, Sonya was going to die. We know Lucian was going to live. The Lycans are going to rise up and take over. And despite all the fact that what we know these events are going to take place, it was still interesting to see it play out on the screen. And again, that's because of how much we enjoy these characters. We love seeing Sonya. We love Lucian. We love Reyes. He of course he's in this film as well, and it's a decent film. Yes, so far in this search series, we have three excellent films in the Underworld film series. I enjoyed all three of them. They are fantastic vampire films. Obviously, the series will take a dip when I review Underworld Awakening, despite the return of Kate Beckinsale. And it started the somewhat downfall of the Underworld series. And then we'll explain that more when I talk about Underworld Awakening. Yep, so there you have it. That's my video for today, guys. Hope you did enjoy it. And if you did, please give it a thumbs up, like, and share because it helped out with that YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscribe button and ring that notification bell. That way, you'll be notified anytime when I put a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as a Horror Miser Money G, and always been a member of that Horror Rules. And I see you in my next video. I'm out.